His comments. There we are. And all right. People coming upstairs to ask Phoebe a question and realise she's busy. So come back another time. All right, let's get going. Hello and welcome to the Foxy Property Chat podcast. My name is Cody. With me, we have Jake. How are you today, Jake?
Very well, thank you, Cody.
Yeah, and Phoebe, you?
Super.
How are you, Cody?
Yeah, 100% today. Feeling really good. Just questions. Let's get into it. As we said, we've got plenty to get through, so we may as well get going. First one from Castle & Co. How does your staff know what items to take to a house? Is there a list they check off or an online form?
If we're talking about furniture, there's a list that Phoebe or one of the other senior stylists put together. So we have a database. There's a list that shows what's available in the warehouse and what's available from the packups that are booked in. So the guys loading the truck have that list in front of them and they tick it off, highlight as they're going. And then I guess Phoebe can probably answer from the accessory and cushion, artwork, that side of things.
Yeah, so basically when we quote a job up, it's done per room. So the girls can then go through as far as an itemised list goes and be able to figure out exactly what each space needs. That's at their discretion. Our stylists have full creative control when it comes to the pieces that we use to style as far as accessories, cushions, artworks, everything like that goes. We choose the colours and everything together, but the little pieces they choose. We then do a photography checklist for the way that we operate. It's not we haven't been able to make it efficient where we itemise everything individually as far as accessories that goes into a house, but rather we use a photography checklist to make it just that much easier.
Should say as well, so the furniture, everything we own has a name.
Yep.
So the list obviously it's written down with the names of everything. The guys will know a lot of the names, and if they don't, we've got a system where we can kind of search and find
we use
the
Trello.
pictures of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'll keep a bit of details. I'm not sure if they wanted to remain anonymous or not, but they got an install with 3 flights of stairs, trying to lessen the load for the installers and then wanting to put a console in a combined lounge dining rather than a big buffet. Would you guys do that? There is no entryway hall, just straight into the living space. Would love to hear your thoughts. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess it depends on the property itself. So I understand wanting to make sure that we are obviously being considerate to the logistics staff, but the end result, that's your reputation. So it's going to cost you more as far as getting the logistics team back to go and switch out the console if it should have been a buffet, as opposed to getting a 2-man item up those stairs initially. I guess the difference to the way that we style a property is that we wouldn't actually be styling with a buffet or a console in a unit that only has the one living space. We definitely would be putting a TV and a TV unit in. It's just the different way that we do style. So that's not really a consideration. That's just basically a tick box that's not going to change for me. But the decision's based on the best outcome for the property, and I have less of a consideration for the staff.
clip that.
They can just do an
Less
extra flight
consideration.
upstairs.
Work harder.
Yeah.
I pay them.
You would, if you're going to put a buffet though, the consideration for that sort of thing would come in which
buffet? Yeah. It's not obviously being a unit. You're not going to go for a big heavy one. But there's still a 2-man lift, which is where I think that question is going to.
Yep.
Okay, Kinsey Winslow. Jake, this is a comment from the last week's Foxy TV episode on logistics. So how many stages per week were you when you made the switch? So when you first, bought the truck, yep. And if there was a slow week and you didn't have any other moving services planned, what did they do?
I can't remember the exact numbers where we were when we did that. It would have been about a year in. Because
did you go through why that happened? Sorry, that obviously makes it very obvious.
Yeah, no, you were there when we were talking about that. That's paying attention. So it was about a year in.
I wasn't here.
No,
you filmed it without me.
We've talked about that in the past, but I kind of think, did I give enough details or should I touch on that, Cody?
Just briefly mention.
Yeah, so basically we were using an external contractor, a removalist company, and he decided he didn't want to run his own business anymore. So
That's really kind. He snapped his leg in 2 spots.
Yeah, but also all the admin. He didn't like the actual running the stuff behind running a business. So we offered him a full-time job and bought his truck and brought it in-house at that point. So it was either lose him and have to find somebody else because he was going to shut his business down either way, or bring it in-house. So we did that. I think it was about a year into our business. In terms of what we were doing per week or month. I struggle to remember 1 year in, probably, I don't know,
20?
20 a month, 20 to 30 a month maybe. So kind of 1 or 2. Yeah, it wouldn't have been any more than kind of 5, 6, maybe 7 a week at that point.
Yep.
And for one truck, that many plus pack ups is probably about, close to where we were. In terms of, what was the second part of the question? So when we did it and
what would we do, and there was nothing else.
Yeah, so for the weeks where we were a bit quiet, and I guess that's the part that's scary for a lot of people, that fixed overhead with nothing to do on a quiet week. Firstly, we
Did we ever
tried.
have that?
We didn't have a lot of that. There would have been days. There wouldn't have been a lot of weeks where we had no work for the whole week. There would have been a day where we might have finished a bit early. To be honest, we finished early some days to kind of make up for the days where we started early or finished a bit later. We always were trying to do more at the warehouse, preparation-wise, cleaning-wise. There was never an extended period. If we were worried about that and we got to a point where there was days and days of that, we probably would have looked at doing something else, like more removalists for agents as an added service, something like that.
We also film some videos every now and again, like we did the Foxy Games in the warehouse, that sort of stuff.
That's
Yeah,
Played
team
probably a
breakfast.
bit more
Honestly, we didn't have that
basketball.
much downtime as far as the truck time is considered.
Yeah.
It was out doing jobs, dollar productive jobs most days.
Yep.
Bunch of questions on wages.
Yeah, I saw that this
Keep
week.
all the names out just in case. But
Yeah.
what do you pay casual stylists per hour? We want to make sure pay them correctly. One has no experience, and she's training her on the job. Don't know if that factors
So
in.
I noticed there were a number of, we had a couple of employees sending through questions, and we had some employers sending through questions. Some people questioned the pay rates they were being received, not sure if it was right, and then other people saying, like, what do you pay? Because we're not in an industry where it's standardized. There's no industry rate. And that does make it really tricky. What makes it even more tricky is that when I call Fair Work, when I call the Ombudsman, they give you an answer there, and then I got it written out that we were on a certain rate, an industry award. That was the General Retail Award. And I know that other stylists have called on different days, obviously spoken to somebody different. Obviously, it's also several years later. Someone was told we're on the Architectural Award. Other have been told that we're on differing awards.
I think.
Yeah, the miscellaneous, and then some have been told there is no industry. So it is very different. The closest business as far as the setup goes is scaffolding, because the way that they hire out items, they own it, and it's done for a set period of time. But it doesn't really help us. So we've set our rate here in Queensland, and what I've said to everybody is that it's different for states. It's different for states. It's different casual versus salary. It's different for if you're full-time versus somebody who's contracting in. There are so many differences in it that does make it difficult, as well as, well, what background does those staff have before they come and work for you? I'll talk about ranges, but our ranges go from 50,000 through to like 70. I don't know the numbers very well, but you know the numbers more than me. Up to 70-ish thousand per year. They're for stylists who are very brand new, up to stylists who have been with us for a very long time. Our management's on a different level than that, but it's just so interdependent. It's a discussion. It's a call to Fair Work to make sure you're ticking the right boxes for your business, but then it's a discussion between you and your employee.
And the awards, if you call Fair Work and get kind of some guidelines there, within the award, it gives you those rates, depending on, it'll talk about different levels of experience. It'll talk about what sort of responsibilities that they have. And there's, all these grids and whatever. It's kind of boring, but once you figure out what kind of level the person who you're talking about is, you can get an idea about kind of minimum rates at those different levels.
Then there's stuff about the car kilometres and all the travel allowances. There's stuff in there about phone allowances, training, the opportunities for training. There's overtime, expected overtime, the rates to pay. All that sort of stuff is all detailed in each of those awards. But it's really important that you give the Ombudsman a call, have a chat, get that in writing, and then I think transparency from that point on with your employees or employer is really important.
For a casual employee, do I start paying the moment they jump in the van?
I did see that. They were talking about travel specifically for that one.
Yep.
That's really we don't pay in that modality. So basically, any travel that is undertaken from our guys that is not on the way home or to work is covered by our the travel allowance we pay. But I'm not 100% sure how contracting in works. And I don't know if it's a discussion. I don't know if it's standardised. So I honestly can't give that accurate information.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, a removalist company, for instance, a little bit different, but a removalist company generally will charge you depot to depot. So they'll charge you from, when they leave their facility. So that travel time will have to be something you have to cover. Not all of them do it that way, but most of them do.
Yeah.
I imagine it really comes down to what conversation you have with your contractor essentially, or your casual staff. But I'm not entirely sure what the answer is there.
That's all of that was very vague and unhelpful, but I hope it gives you a starting point.
Yep. Okay, how much furniture do you think is a good amount to aim for to have in the warehouse at any one time?
Oh.
Well, what we've found, and obviously it depends on how many jobs you're doing, but you always want to have as much of your furniture out as possible, because then that's what how you're making your money. But at the same time, you want to have a level of stock in your warehouse so that you have options for any upcoming jobs. So you never want to be kind of scraping the barrel in terms of what furniture you have left and making decisions for a sofa because it's the only one that you have available. You want options, but not too many. In terms of to give a number to it, we've found that somewhere around the 10 to 15% of your stock in the warehouse we found is a good level to have without going too much. Any more than that, and we're starting to have too much sitting around and it takes too long to get the furniture back out. Any less than that, and you're starting to make decisions that you probably wouldn't.
Well, no, that's not what I'd say.
Well, you have to go
that's where
buying
you're forced
more.
to purchase, because it should never ever be the owner's issue. If you don't have the stock that you've said you will, you need to go and purchase it. So that's
This comes from my wife, Talia.
Gold handles?
Yeah, how to the gold fittings in kitchens.
Oh, she did ask.
Yeah. So when ovens etc are often chrome, how do you make all that work?
So basically, if you were going gold fixtures and fittings, that's a very on-trend piece at the moment. They're generally, the ones that you're seeing on Instagram, the ones you're seeing on Pinterest, they have a butler's pantry, they've got integrated appliances, and that's the answer to. So basically, you don't have them on show. You can either get black or you can get chrome, and neither of those are going to sit very nicely with a neutral-based kitchen. So they're all integrated or they're hidden. So that's the easiest solution. Not a cost-effective solution there, Cody, for your brand new home, but that is the solution.
Excellent. What do you recommend when styling a pool area? How much stuff do you use?
It depends on the size. So we have outdoor lounges. I wouldn't put outdoor dining around a pool area. We've got little tub chairs with a side table. We've got sun lounges. We do actually have an umbrella in stock as well, but it just depends on the size of the pool space. A pool is going to be a draw card. So it needs to be styled, and it needs to be styled nicely. And the right level of outdoor furniture needs to be put around a pool space while still enabling people to walk around it.
Cool. Next question. I'll often get asked if we move personal items. I know I could get more work if I said yes, but also don't want to become a removalist business. How would you approach this?
So... So it's a tricky one. So yes, integrated styles, which is what we call it when you're working with the client's pieces. That is honestly one of the biggest reasons that we had the growth that we did, because I would say yes to those jobs. And yes, it did mean more. It meant more coordination. It meant more planning. It meant having the right stock there that could work in with anybody's pieces. And then when I turned up on site, it did mean that there was stuff there that shouldn't have been, and we did have photos on the bedside tables, and we did have trinkets, and we had little soap dispensers and all the little bits and bobs in the bathroom, so toothbrushes. So we do as much as we can to educate a client as to how would like to see the home ready for us when we arrive. It's not always perfect, and then we will help them. We will pop them. Basically, we pop all of their little bits and bobs into a cupboard in the same room. Yes, it does take extra time, but it's definitely worth it for them. When it comes to moving their furniture, we have a very open discussion. So our guys will, at a charge, move all of their bigger pieces of furniture that we're not going to incorporate into a styling job. We can move it to storage or move it into the garage for them. Their boxes, their smaller bits and bobs, their clothes horse, all those stuff, they are responsible for shifting those pieces. They're the time suck when it comes to doing a removal job. they're not necessarily always packed very well, and you'll get a tea chest style box full of books, and they're far too heavy for the guys to be lifting. So it's a very open, transparent discussion. They're responsible for doing those ones. We'll move the big furniture at a fee, and everyone seems to be very happy.
And
with
those
that
and
middle
those
ground.
conversations happen at the consult
It
or
does.
beforehand. So it doesn't always work out, but generally you'll turn up to a job and everything that you've already discussed should have been done.
Yeah.
The other thing that we sometimes offer, which is an additional service or something that just helps some people across the line, is when we're doing the removal, if they don't have room in the garage or they want to store it off site, we'll often organise that for them. We'll pass on the cost of that storage facility at a National Storage or a Storage King, one of those sort of places. But we just make it easy and we say, yeah, sure, we can do that. We'll
Yep.
take it off site. We'll book the storage shed and we'll put it all in there for them.
It's really easy.
What's the home staging industry or the competition like in Brisbane? Have you heard it's more competitive or less than other major cities, or on par?
It's I'll give my 2 cents and then you probably have a better idea than me. It's from what we can tell, and look, we don't know. Well, I definitely don't watch the other markets like Sydney and Melbourne in Australia as much as maybe you do, Phoebe. But Brisbane is, from what I can tell, probably less competitive
gonna
than a
say
Sydney
friendly.
or in Melbourne. Probably just in terms of the number of staging companies, or at least the number of staging companies who are similar to us and have their warehouse and logistics and everything. I know that Sydney and Melbourne have a much larger number of those sorts of companies, and they, from the little bits and pieces that you see on social media or hear questions asked in various groups, you can see that a lot of them are constantly, asking questions about how to get new work or how to deal with, a competitor starting up and charging less, or those sorts of questions. We get that in Brisbane, but it doesn't seem to be as, talked about from what I can tell.
Yeah, I would describe it as, I feel like it's quite friendly. I would love to be able to describe it as more collaborative. I don't feel that we're at that point, but I would have had discussions with most owners at some point, stylists who own a business where they do have multiple stylists working for them and they do own their stock. But yeah, I very much, there's different levels of the market, and there's only a few stylists who service each level of the market. There's not too much crossover.
Okay. Before we move on to under and overrated section, you guys just want to mention what positions we have open at Foxy at the moment?
Yeah, so we currently have an administrative assistant role open, but we have filled that one.
So it's not open?
Now, so it's not. It's still running. I need to turn the ad off. We have a stylist position that we'll be looking to fill. We have I think tomorrow we've got we have somebody starting tomorrow in our logistics team. I do have one position open in the logistics team, which is kind of the reason I'm hesitating is because I might have somebody, but as we're sitting here right now, there's still one more to fill as well. Am I missing anybody? I think that's it. We've kind of just gotten a number of people signed and starting in the next little bit. So we're, back to the level where we, want to be.
Cool. But reach out if you are interested in any of
Well,
that.
one thing that Phoebe and I always say is if somebody comes to us and we think they would be great for our team, we'll make a position for them.
Especially if you're a good podcast host. Okay, under and overrated section. Bunk beds.
Sorry, didn't mean to. Oh, freaking overrated. They're a piece of poo. I don't like them. My children have them,
Yeah.
and they're horrible to make. I made Sam's on the weekend, and I had to put the fitted sheet, so I just left the top right corner
She
under.
did.
Oh, it's on the
I
top
made
one,
him do
yeah.
it.
Do you know what?
I reckon the kids would say underrated, though.
The kids like them. The problem for us is that it means that they don't want to go to sleep at night because they're both in the same room.
What about staging? I guess we just never
No,
do it unless
they're not good for room size. They make the
They're not?
room look smaller.
Okay.
Yep, not a fan.
Butler's Pantry.
Underrated.
Yeah, underrated.
I'd take one of those. No space in our house.
The iPad pens.
Underrated.
Yeah, underrated. We use
Even
them all the
at-
time.
Aren't they like $150 or something?
169 for the
Yeah.
version 2. But it sticks, it's magnetized, and it just charges while it's stuck to it. It's great.
We use them
Right.
every day, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
because
for us,
Talia,
it's beneficial.
I told Talia to get one because you were raving about it. I'm like, yeah, just go get one. I saw the receipt and went, what? It's going to be $30.
you signed off on that.
That's your own fault.
having cleaners come and clean the office
Oh, underrated, massively
We took
underrated.
way
Can't
too
believe we
long
took
to do that,
yeah.
yeah.
and the toilets.
And she's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is total left of field. They come at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. I did last Tuesday. Jake decided to rock up and do this Tuesday, just gone. She bought me a bacon and egg McMuffin and a coffee, and I wasn't even here.
Wasn't even
It
here.
was delicious.
This guy got it.
And last, this is all based on your lives, really. Hello Fresh Lunches.
No, that's not what we've got. We've got you
Oh,
food.
you
Oh, you food.
One.
And
Yeah,
I say
you
they're
foods
underrated
lunches.
because, underrated because
Well,
I'm
underrated
enjoying
by
them
us because
and
we've
they're
never
good.
tried them before and we've given it a go and
Yeah.
they're really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
We're enjoying
Underrated.
them.
All right, well, that's it for this week's podcast. Thanks for joining me, Phoebe and Jake.
Thanks,
Thank
Cody.
you.
See you next week.
See, bye.